This episode is brought to you by freedadcourse.com. You are always one conversation away from changing your life, and the power of hello is something that I subscribe to every single day, and I'm always saying hello to new people everywhere I go. Increasing your opportunity, increasing your connection, and getting access to the solutions to the problems that you are facing, whether you're on active duty or just beginning your veteran transition or even transitioning out for 20 years. On the other side of hello are the solutions that you're looking for. Again, head on over to freedadcourse.com. Get your 5-episode audio course to create more connection, create more friendships, and get back to living the life that you're trying to design.
Dory 1, this is Fire Team Delta. Dad's coming home.
Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Cloy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Fatherhood Friday. Guys, as always, it's glad to be back on the mic. I'm your host, Ben Cloy. And if I haven't told you already, these Fatherhood Fridays are my favorite thing to record because each week I get the chance to talk to you. I get the chance to hop on here, share a story of my life, share something that's going on, share a wisdom or a piece or a moment or a piece of advice that allowed me to move past something in my past. I've been at this game of trying to move past some massive stuff in my life for almost 5 years now. And I love this opportunity to bring you this message. The reviews on iTunes always mention the Fatherhood Friday. And so I thank you for those iTunes reviews. You guys like this. I get great feedback out there in Fatherhood Friday. So without further ado, let's just dive right into today's topic. So today's topic is the good, the bad, and the ugly. What do I mean by that? The good, the bad, and the ugly is an idea that I came up with, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 months ago when, if you've been following the podcast, I started this journey of looking in the mirror and really challenging who was looking back. And it hit me in that moment that in order to unconditionally love others in your life, whether it be your wife, your kids, your friends, it doesn't matter, anybody, to unconditionally love them, you have to fully, and I mean fully, love yourself looking back in the mirror. Now that sounds really weird to say. It sounds maybe weird to hear. It sounds maybe a little woo-woo. But let me tell you, and especially coming from a Marine, most Marines would not tell you, you know what you need to do? You need to do a Stuart Smiley, look in the mirror and say, gosh darn it, I love you. But sometimes that's exactly the mindset that we need to have. Because what I've learned in the last 8 months, what I've learned through 75 Hard, what I've learned through COVID, is that in order to really move the needle on what you want for your life, to move the needle on where you desire your life to be, that feeling in your gut, that emotion that's in your heart, that desire for something better in your life, you can't focus your energy on the actual desire. I know that sounds counterintuitive because when you focus on the desire, you're aiming towards some result. And when you're aiming towards some result, it's going to be weighed down by whatever you're holding on to. And the way that you see the world is also the way that you see yourself in the mirror. And I've been really challenging myself to use better language in the mirror because oftentimes the words we use to describe ourselves in the mirror can be that one thing that isn't the most friendliest thing. I recently heard it said, you need to stop talking to yourself and start listening more. Because when we listen, it's just listening. But when we talk to ourselves, it's in a very derogatory, it's in a very negative, condescending way generally. And going back to this good, the bad, and the ugly, I want to reinforce this idea and give you this idea to focus on. That in order to really move on with your life, that you need to be able to look at all the negative things. You need to look at high school. You need to look at your 20s, your 30s, however old you are. You need to look at all the crap and the shit that happened to you and look at that and truly dig deep and find the gratitude. Until you can be able to look at something and acknowledge the gratitude that that really has brought into your life, you're not going to be able to truly love that bad, and the ugly category. It's often super easy to do the good, but the bad and the ugly is often that ball and chain that slows us down. And so I started my growth journey over 5 years ago, and I avoided my self-image in the mirror. I worked on the inside instead of the outside. And in the last 8 months, as I went on the 75 hard journey and COVID and just redefining myself as a stay-at-home dad, I've had more success by focusing on that one core issue, the person I saw in the mirror, than I ever did digging deeper. And now you might already have a good self-image in the mirror, and maybe you do need to do it the opposite. But just acknowledge that one area, that thing that you think that you can do without. You know what? Like, I know you're saying into your head right now as you're listening to this, you're saying, I can do all these other things. Ben talks about all these other amazing things in this I can work on those because this thing over here, it just seems too fucking big to tackle. To me, that was my weight. I thought I could just get to the point where I wanted in life without tackling that it would just come along for the ride. But man, that desire just kept getting deeper. The sadness that I couldn't get to that desire kept getting deeper. But ultimately, it was because I couldn't look in the mirror and love the good, the bad, and the ugly. And because I know a lot of veterans out there, I know you, the dad listening to this, you have a lot of good, bad, and ugly categories. And some of those may be more filled than others. But I'm telling you, the journey to come home as a dad emotionally and be present with your kids is being able to find the gratitude in those good and the bad and the ugly. Because when we conquer those ugly and bad categories, they no longer clog our heart's energy to love freely around us. Because even if you're not conscious to it, subconsciously, you are wasting energy on this idea to enable you to just be stuck. And guys, I've been stuck. I've been there. I know exactly how you feel right in this very moment. I've been there. And I'm telling you that the journey to focus on is loving the person in the mirror, which was an entire episode that I did a few weeks back of who do you see in the mirror. And this time, I just want to add and remind you that one extra cherry on top to this whole process of coming home is, do you love the good, the bad, and the ugly? Now, you may be acknowledging that maybe I have a point. You're thinking, you know what, that makes sense of what Ben's saying. What do I do next? Finding gratitude can often be really difficult. I remember doing a couple different gratitude exercises where I'd be writing different things down, and I eventually just ran out of things to be grateful for. And I remember being grateful for socks. Like, I just had to write things down. And it sounds funny to say, but it was more about keeping the momentum going on it than worrying about whether it was the right amount of gratitude. But often, the next step is finding someone that you can share something with. Because as long as you hold it on in the inside, it's going to have power over you. To lessen its power, to find the gratitude, it needs to be outside of your head. There's something that happens psychologically inside of our heads that when we have a story, when we have an emotion that has not been verbalized, it has not been expressed, it has not been brought into the physical world, either through sound, anything, it becomes real. It becomes almost a living being inside of our head. But the moment you let that out, this is why sharing the load is something I talk about so often. Because you need people in your life to share the load with. Because whenever something's heavy on my heart, I always try to get it out. I always try to verbalize it. And the more times I've done that, the stronger my mind gets with taking an emotion and verbalizing it, but the less power it has. And also, once it's out, you can truly see it for what it is. Maybe it's a BS thought. Maybe you are a dad listening to this podcast, and just yesterday you were thinking about taking your own life. What I've learned doing this podcast and interviewing people that have tried to take their own life, that have been experienced with taking your own life or been affected by it, is that when you look through this lens, it's often this conversation in your head that makes it seem true. The moment you verbalize whatever it is you want to do or whatever issue you're trying to do, even yourself, You can be like, well, that was the fucking stupidest thought I've ever had. Why would I have a thought like that? But you can't say that until you get it out. Even maybe you don't have a tribe. Even if you don't have a friend, maybe you don't have a tribe to lean on. Find someone, find a notebook. A notebook can be a really good way to just journal. I've said some very profound things, and I've expressed some serious emotion, and just writing it down. Being able to just get that thought out of your head allows you to see it for what it is. Maybe it's pure beauty, but inside your head, it's pain. Maybe it's difficult to understand why your parents are no longer here. Maybe it's difficult to understand still why you came home and your best friend didn't. Maybe it's difficult to understand why your dad took his own life. Whatever pain you are holding on to in your heart, it needs to be verbalized. And until you start verbalizing, you are going to struggle with loving that bad and ugly category. But I'm here to tell you that this idea of loving the good, the bad, and the ugly is one of the most freeing exercises that I've been on and journeys that has really, probably not 10x, but it's definitely 3 and 4x'd where I have been this year, because I really started looking for extreme gratitude in the things that I still find pain with, and continuing to dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper. And even just expressing it with friends that are nearby, because they reflect something back that I can't see as well. Maybe you can't find the gratitude. Share it with someone. They will be the mirror in that moment that you need. Dads, I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I will talk to you guys again on Monday.